to make these pine cone ornaments.
The bowl here at the top, those aren't actually ornaments because they're too big and heavy for ornaments. You could hollow them out, and when you do that is you cut them in half, or you cut a top off of it, and then you drill out the middle, and you look back together, and then you got a nice lightweight. But these were actually hand carved before I got my lathe for my wife. She wanted that decorative bowl for Christmas. You can see got some ornaments in there. We usually get holly and stick in there at Christmas time and put it as a table ornament. Now, I was about halfway through making these. These are all basswood and just stained different colors, and then put a shellac or finish on them. When I got my lathe, I realized I can make the initial shape on my lathe a lot easier. I can carve these blocks of wood down into a cone shape. So that's what got me started on the trying to do pine cone ornaments. And so there's 4 different options, or 4 different examples here. So this is the simplest. It's just a basic sort of a shape of a pine cone, but it's not carved or anything. So if you just want something simple to turn out quickly, you can do something like this, and I'll demo that one. And then I use that as a starting point for the others. Okay, so I start with this. Now, it's almost like making a pine, like you make, anybody ever made Christmas tree ornaments? So think of that, except it's fat at the top and skinny at the bottom.
Yeah.
Doing the same sort of shape, it's just reversed. So if you ever made a Christmas tree ornament, you're doing the same basic shape. Then my next one was this one, and I'll borrow his right here. That one was carved. Okay, so after I finished it off, I used my power carver and carved it out. Now, those are all done by hand because it was before I got my power carver. And that was basically my wife said, go outside and stay away from me and do these now that you're retired. Keep busy. And so this is, I like that shape and look a lot. It looks really good. You leave it natural. But it does take a lot longer because you've got to be a little bit more exacting in your carving. But basically the design is very simple. You take something like this, and then you just draw lines for the top, cut that, and then you work your way down each layer at a time. Then I went this one, and this little one here, same concept, except that the wood was a little softer, harder to carve. So instead of trying to make it round on top, I just sort of used carving, my power carver, carved the basic shape out, and then I used a gouge and kind of scooped out where the petals were. So it just gives it a different look. And then I used now you have to help me, Katie, because I forgot the name of those inks you used that time we did the class with the carving.
The Tattered Angels.
Yeah, Tattered Angel inks. I used those, and then I mixed it with some mica powder to get the sheen, and then I put a little finish on it, mainly because the stuff kept rubbing off. I come out with silvery goldy looking hands. And I put a mixture of silver and gold mica powders to get the color. And then after I took the class that Hans did, I tried a different sort of texturing technique. And here, same thing, but instead of trying to carve it all down, I just scooped out my edges and then I alternated them all the way down. And this goes a lot quicker, so it'll turn out something relatively quick. And then again, it's a more artistic, not so much realistic looking ornament. But then the same thing, you put some kind of finish on it. Also, I want to try, I just haven't got the materials yet, the sizing in that. I think that would look really pretty if you would put the sizing on it and then come back with some kind of glittery, shiny stuff and make a really pretty finish. I just haven't got to that yet. That's my next step. So
Those aren't hollow, are they?
no, they're not hot. Well, one is. This one was.
This one is hollow.
This one was hollow. So I started off. I literally, made a box first, and then after it was finished, I just glued it back together. So you see on the top now, this is just smooth on the top. It wasn't carved.
Did you get that in front of the camera?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Da-da-da. So I carved it, I just, took the bandsaw, cut it off here, portion of it, hauled out the inside, rounded out the top, and then when I finished shaping this part of it, okay, I just glued it back together. So it's lighter. And you can do that with these, but depends on the wood. These are all small and light enough that they don't really. And basically what I use for my ornaments are, so we'll go over here now, bottle stopper blanks. Now you can make them bigger, you just need a piece of wood. So I'm going to demo a couple of these. I'm just going to start off with the basic shape, then I'll show you how I go through marking them and that. Yes?
Have you ever tried balsa? Being that you're concerned about weight?
I have not tried balsa because I would not want to try that on the lathe because it's so light and kind of porous. Now, I would do hand carve it. Basswood now, okay, is a good, when you first start carving, that's what everybody recommends because it's relatively easy to carve with, and you can buy blanks pretty cheap, So I start with basswood, and then it's hard enough that it'll turn well. The other thing would be if you had a good quality pine to work with, if you're going to color it and paint it anyway. I had one the other day, but the pine was not good quality, and it turned out being really, even though it had high speed and my tools had just been sharpened, it still looked terrible, so I didn't bring that one. And let's say it would have been a lot of sanding. Yes.
Those shocked me how light they were. Can you send a couple out?
Sure, we'll pass those around.
Yeah.
Okay.
They look like they were going to be heavier than what they were. Huh?
Yeah, no, they're not heavy. Again, it's like I'll just pass, like this around. It depends on the wood you have too. So if you want to just pass this around, you can kind of tell when you start how heavy it's going to be by the blank you've got. And you can see that.
This would be an opportunity. Well, it's got a big split right down this.
Yeah, but then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So usually if it's split like that, I probably won't use that one because I just grabbed some out of the box this morning. I'll glue those together. I'll put CA in it, clamp it, and then come back and try it and see what happens. Even though it's small, I have had cataract surgery just recently. I'm definitely going to have double protection. And start off with, now you can use parting tool, roughing gouge, but I found I like to use like a bowl gouge for my corners here. So. Now, sometimes I'll do this twice. If it's a thicker piece of wood, I will spin it kind of like you're making a ball. Then I'll reverse it, and it gives it a nice fatter shape. But for time purposes here, we'll try this way.
Say again?
Are you just creating the basic shape?
Yeah, creating
If you
basic
want-
shape first. First I just round it off,
Okay.
and then I'll round it down. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, before I start shaping it, I'm going to make one end, this end, the top of it. And I'll make it thick enough that I can actually use it with my, so I can set them in here and tighten it down, and that gives me, when I start carving, it gives me a nice hold, and I can carve it on here. And that's what I found. Now, sometimes toward the end you have to take it off and do some stuff by hand, particularly at the top, because you don't have a lot of room to work with. But overall, you can get the basic shape and the carving done just by working right here.
And if you have I think it's Trent Bosch and a couple of those other ones make it so you can, put it in the side of the table and then use your chuck to hold it. You know what I'm saying? You can turn it and move it at different levels, so it makes it easier to carve.
And unlike some people, I do not have a problem using carbide. For certain things. So now I've got my top I can put in. Now I'll just take it down. Or up. That looks pretty good. So for now, I've got a place to put this in the chuck. I've got the basic shape here. You have to leave a little bit of a flat spot, which you'll end up carving or rounding off. But you'll also, you can flip it around and fix it, because what I'm going to do now is make my lines. And that's why I like this, because it gives me just the right amount of distance between each one.
What is that?
This is just a carbide cutter.
Round, square?
Square. Square carbide cutter. I've got my basic shape, and now I want to kind of just angle this a little bit so I can sort of smooth it down a little bit, just on the edges. This is where I usually screw them up. Now, if you don't like using carbide tools, you can do the same thing with a beating and parting tool, which is basically what I use this as. What all I'm doing now is just putting a little bit of an end on it so I can flip it around and put it on the
Pen chuck.
pin chuck, yeah. Now, that's your basic shape right there. Start off.
Pass it around.
No.
Where's it
Okay. And see, now I can do this and work on the top when I'm ready. I can do this for carving.
You can't see it through your hand.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll turn it this way, go ahead and round this off. And then I'll put it back this way for the carving purposes.
At that point, could you use like a small Forstner bit and go in and hollow that out?
Yeah. You could hollow it out. You could also, because you've got tendons on both ends, so you could hit it right here with a bandsaw, or even a
1/8 inch parting tool.
1/8 inch parting tool, something small. Then put this end in, hollow this end out, turn it over, round this out with your tool, like you're making a box. And then, fix it up so that the top will fit inside the bottom. And then you just glue it back together. If you want to carve it. And if you want to leave it in this shape, I would finish it, a little bit more, then do that, yeah. Then I would do each piece separate and then just glue it together at the end. So if you want a simple one, like the first one we had, the first one, then you put a nice finish on this. You can put a glitter on it. You can do something. And really, there's not a whole lot more you got to do to this one, except some final shaping. But if you want to carve it, then you've got some more steps to go. Now, you take a smaller tool. And I'll just and I will bring this down a little bit more. It doesn't even quite that big. But that gives me a nice rounded finish. Okay, so now if you were leaving it like this, pretty much the next step would be sand it, put your finish on it, of whatever, if you want to put a color on it, do the coloring. If you want to put sizing in some different flakes or stuff, do that. Or if you're going to paint it, take it off and paint it, whatever. And you've got that basic shape. And if it's wood's real pretty, then I like to leave it natural. Like this one, I think would actually make a pretty good one, just as is, because it's got some nice definition. It's fairly light, so it's going to show up good against a tree. Darker ones, not as much. So the next step is, I'm going to flip this back around. And In this case, that's just kind of, I'm not going to be lading anymore, so it doesn't have to be exact, perfect. I just need a little bit of space there to hold it. Curved, okay, this is like a
Show it on, put it on top of your thing there.
curved, okay, this is like just a little, I guess it's 3 millimeters, so it's not a really big one, it's hand tool. And if you want to do the carving one, shaping, which is what I'm going to do for this one because it's fairly quick. Or if you want to get real fancy, you can pull out my power tool and then do it, but I'll show you the basic technique. And this is why I like this. You just hold this in place and you mark here. Now, my lathe at home I really like because I can pop this up and there's actual numbers. I can just do it that way. But the next one is here. So, because you're going to make these V shapes down. And you're going to go here, mark one. And I'm just sort of eyeballing it now. Here.
We doing 90 degrees?
Yeah. Here. Now, if you want to do something simple that, you could make that 45 and make more rings around the top. Okay, so if I'm trying to make it more realistic, I'll do the 45 degree. And then you just, actually, this one's too big to do that anyway. So what I need to do is, let's see. I need to go with a 45 degree anyway. So to kind of give you an idea, I'm going to draw here. And this is carving, so it doesn't need to be, super accurate. Here. And then end up with, and if they're not all the same size, that's okay. It just makes it look better. So I ended up with 5 instead of 6. I probably should have made this one smaller. In fact, I think I will. That's why you start with pencil. So I can go here, and I'm just eyeballing it now.
Are you drawing through each one of those bands?
So what I'm going to do, I'll take this off and put it back on. Yeah. So you can see what I've done. So you can see I just sort of made a pattern like that. And that'll be my first carving. Now to carve this, if you're going to use a power carver and you want to, you start and you cut each, in fact I'll do that, you cut each of these along that line. You go ahead and outline it. Then you bring these middle pieces here down. And then you alternate, and so you make your next set of these will be down here.
Do you have your power carver with you?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right, so
Don't you agree?
we'll flip this
I mean, you
around.
don't have to do it all, but I'm saying you can see it, how you're
Yep, so
attacking it.
now if you want to do just like I said, a rough shape, then you just take this and you sort of inch it out, like so. You carve it, like so. But with the power carver, so I just get one of my little round tipped ones, small. Okay.
What's the difference between a power carver and a rotary tool?
Speed. And these are lighter. It's basically the same kind of thing.
Which one's That's more speed.
The power carvers. Well, these are all like dental tools in a way. Yeah, except they're a little more heavy duty. And you
It'll do
can,
about 90,000 RPM.
this one will go up to 45, so which is more than I need. I usually run around 25 on I would, yeah.
45,000.
Marty, what brand is
This is a iCube by Ram Products.
that? Where did you get it?
Online at Ram, and it was on sale when I got it, so. In fact, I got it for a class, the semi-long class.